Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, Sue and myself are going to be talking about quitting is also a strategy. We've been talking about the essential elements of well-being. I think quitting kind of fits into that in a way, because it's part of your whole well-being. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's almost like this resilience culture thing that's developed through COVID. I mean, I see just so much of the word resilience. And there's times when I actually am quite irritated by it. I think there's situations that are quite untenable. And then when people are being asked to be resilient, it can be quite, can make me quite unhappy.
Yeah. Especially if you're in a situation where, and this is a massive thing for me, I remember going to an interview and somebody saying to me, what do you really, really need? And I said, for me to ever stay anywhere, the one thing that I need is growth. If I'm not growing, and I know we all know that we need it, but that doesn't mean we will all make that an absolute top value. But for me, that's a non-negotiable, because if there's no growth, I just feel like a hamster, or I don't know.
So that's a line for you that if crossed would be a signal to move on. Yeah, a sort of clear signal. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say around that is, and I've made this mistake, which is why I know it so painfully. Sometimes when those things are crossed, we just assume that there's no staying. That's a clear sign I've got to go. Mm-hmm. But if we don't work a little bit with it, what can we do to change that? How can we raise that issue, lean into it and see what we can do? Then the knee-jerk reaction to quit can sometimes also be the incorrect one.
Very nice. Yes, to be able to have that honest conversation, very important. But if, on the other hand, you're doing, I'm somebody who's very big, I love research and into very specific areas. Unfortunately, I'm very one-dimensional, unfortunately. And within that, you get to know a lot about a particular subject. And I think, again, in line with the quitting, if getting all that information in an area that you're into no longer excites you and it no longer gives you that feeling of motivation and drive, I think also then, sometimes we need to redirect, maybe.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think if anything, we have to be learning to be agile. We have to learn to take that information. So what is that information? That's information about how I'm feeling about this. Where am I at emotionally? What am I learning? Am I growing here? All of that information has to come together to inform, how can I adapt? How can I shift? How can I pivot? So that should be happening, I guess, all the time, bringing in all that information and assessing it.
And then the signs. And I know you and I were speaking about this before, and I to be honest, as I was saying to you earlier, I don't care whether it does or it doesn't. But for me, signs are very, very real. It's the continuously trying to get hold of somebody and you can't get hold of them, or you keep getting rejected from something, or it's this continual redirection of where you're at to where you could be. I don't know if you have an example of that. I don't know if you resonate with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of in two minds about it. I think sometimes what's happening there is that we are getting the messages that we already sort of know, but we don't know them.
Yes.
So they're coming to us in a particular way. This isn't really working. Here's another example of why it's not really working. And so we can use those signs in that way. I think sometimes that's what happens. But also on the other side, you may have some barriers, some things that get in your way. And actually, you have to be able to sometimes see those things through. If you've articulated your purpose and what you really want to get out of something that's meaningful, deeply meaningful to you, then within that, stay true to that. Chopping and changing just because there's some barriers or there's some signs that don't look like things are going well. That is a time when you can potentially dig in and say, stay the course here. Let me just settle myself and you know, reconnect with my purpose and see if I can find a way through this. So yeah, I think kind of in two minds. Depends on the situation. Hey,
there does need to be, because I have been in a situation where I tried to do something where I know I should have actually quit it a long time ago. So I do, for me, then there needs to be a cutoff time. It can't be, if I'm rolling out something or I'm trying something with some kind of intention behind it, there needs to be a time frame, because if I just keep doing something and there is no response or there is no growth within what I'm doing, if I'm looking for a specific outcome, then I would need to, because otherwise I'm just going to get disillusioned if I'm just keep going, keep going, keep going. So I think, yeah,
sticking with it when it's not working is, and maybe what's missing there is the courage to take the next step.
Exactly. And having that cutoff point, I think, is quite helpful, because you get little helpers along the way. Again, that goes back to the signs. You'll get that, you know, the little things happen along the way, which is like affirmations of going, okay, no, this is great, this is great. It's like being in a job or starting a business and you're not making any money. At some point, and you've tried everything, at some point you've got to go, well, if I'm not even getting one person, maybe I need to go this way, or maybe I need to go that way, but something would need to change, because that's not sustainable.
Yeah, got to try a few different things, absolutely. But as Dory Clark says in her latest book, The Long Game, I think it's called, she says her one bit of advice to people starting new businesses is it doesn't happen immediately. You know, so some sense of the long game of your purpose and how you can build that. Obviously, it has to be sustainable, and you have to be adapting around what you're doing all the time. But yeah, she encourages people to stay the course.
And if it brings you joy, there needs to be that joy factor.
Yeah, got to be something in it, to make you want to stay, that feeds you, ideally. Yeah.
Because when there's the procrastination within that, then I don't know. I think if there's, for me, because I'm not a procrastinator, so when I do procrastinate, I really go deep. I think, hang on a minute, there's something really amiss here. I'm not into this, because I don't ever procrastinate. So I don't know, maybe again, it depends on personality types of procrastination, but procrastination very often is a sign that maybe you need to relook at something.
I mean, I think that I am a procrastinator, and it's one of my new favorite topics. And it's often actually around mental energy for me. It's about, I know I need to dig a little bit deeper here. You know, it's not easy, light work. And then I'll find I'll, you know, have a whole set of things that happen in and around it. Feels great when I've done it, and I try to bank that. But yeah, for me, it's a lot around a mental energy and just being able to go into a place of deeper work. I think deeper thinking, deeper application.
Is that attitude or different?
You know, I think it's somewhat about, it's a good question. You have to think about that attitude. Yeah, I mean, certainly the way I suppose I frame the work. I suppose at some point I'm framing it as, whoa, this is hard work. Not, wow, this is going to be fun. So maybe that's a really good one.
But also with attitude, there's an attitude of, wow, this is hard work, and as opposed to, nah, I don't care, whatever. That indifference, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. I can tell you, I've been in that situation when I've been doing certain things, and for whatever reason, I don't feel like it's where I want to be anymore. And I can feel myself feeling like, whatever, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. So it's that, and that for me is a bad place to be.
Yeah. That's complete indifference. That's a really good red flag, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you are at a point then maybe ask yourself, why do you want to quit? What is your reason for quitting? Why did you get into doing whatever it is you're doing in the first place? And is it just a fork in the road? Is it requiring you to do more work? Or is it that it's time to start something new?
Great questions. Yeah. And it's okay to quit, you know. I think
Yes.
and it can be a process of quitting, not an event. You know, I think particularly if you're leaving a workplace, you know, I think there's many things that you can do in and around assessing that'll, you know, set you up well for your next step, that'll create additional opportunities. So rather to think about it as an event, I mean, as a process rather than an event.
And we will see you next week. Enjoy your week and just look at where you're at, and then you can decide for yourself. Maybe quitting is for you or maybe not. Bye.
Bye.